Alright, y'all, let's get to it. The beginning of the game is great. It starts out with this really cool cinematic cutscene. Then it gives, it goes to that shot in the city where it pans out, and then the title screen comes up, and then it's got Cloud afterwards and on the train going up. It's really nice. And then, of course, you got the bombing mission that starts at the beginning. The music going into it's wonderful. The combat, you're introduced to Barrett, Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, you know, pretty cool cast. And then, of course, Cloud. When you're a first-time player, you don't know what the hell's going on, but I still enjoyed it regardless, you know, it was a lot of fun. And then you get to the part where you fight the Crab, Mr. Crab, and that was funny seeing the banter between Cloud and Barrett back and forth. Then once you get through all that, you're introduced to Tifa, you know, you explore the slums a bit, you get some side quests, which are the low part of the game, but they're alright. You know, and then you get some missions with Jesse, Wedge, and Biggs, and, you know, those are kind of cute little things, and just extra story. You're introduced to Roach, all these just wonderful characters you meet along the way, and then you get into this long, you know, Jesse gets hurt, and then you have to get into this long mission with Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa to, I forget honestly what they were doing. Alright, they were gonna go for the reactor, and then, some stuff happened, and then, you know, the president, you know, all the henchmen appear. They fight the airbuster, which is one of the best parts of the game with the music and all kicking in. It's a beautiful scene there. I really enjoyed that. And then Cloud falls into the abyss. You wake up in a church, and there's Aerith, the flower girl you meet at the beginning of the game. I originally didn't know what to think of her since she seemed like a know-it-all, but after playing Rebirth and learning about the OG game and doing all that, you know, it made a lot of sense. Aerith just makes a lot more sense now, you know. She's just really weird and off when I first saw her, and even then, like, I still didn't really like her all that much, but, I like her a lot more now, you know, she's very, I always liked when I say I don't like her, I liked her as a character, it's just she was my least favorite because of the whole know-it-all stuff, like the childness in her in a way, you know, even though she was a full-grown adult, which I don't mind, like, you know, childlike stuff, it's funny, but she definitely airhead, you know, she's kind of, she's like dumb in some ways, but then, you know, when I learned her backstory and the whole, like, kind of homeschooled personality she's got, like, it made sense. But even now, playing a second time, I love her even more now. She's a great character. And of course, throughout the game, you got Sephiroth haunting Cloud constantly, which I did know to an extent about before I started the game because of memes and Smash Bros. And all the stuff that came with that. That was fun. He's a cool character. I thought the voice acting was wonderful too. Then once you go through a bunch of hoopla with Aerith, including the Claw, which that was the bane of this game's existence. You get to the part where you meet Tifa on a carriage where she's going to Walmart. I mean, Walmarket. I said that on purpose, but I just love calling it Walmart. It's funny. But yeah, you go to Walmarket with Aerith and Cloud, and you try your best to get in the exclusive club or whatever, where Don Corneo, that fat guy, you know, the fat hipster or drug, whatever, kingpin, whatever he is, Corneo. You know, you get into that with him, and of course you have that fun cutscene where Cloud, you know, dances with Andrea. You know, Aerith's all dressed up, looking good. You do that mission for her as well. I couldn't get in my playthrough, I couldn't get like the really fancy bright red dress, but I think I got a pretty good one anyways, so. You know, at least it's not like the hand-me-down one that they give to players who barely try, which, I mean, I got that once because I just wanted to get through, like, story stuff in the game. I went through that in the very first game, when I had my first playthrough back in the day, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just wanted to get through the story. Then, of course, you meet Tifa, and Cloud's reaction is just the best thing ever. You get there, Cornelia puts you in the pit, then you traverse through a bunch of horse shit. You meet these ghost things, which who knows what the heck it means. I guess, like they haven't, ghosts or lives that haven't returned to the planet, whatever the heck. I still have no idea what that section is, still to this day. And then after that is when Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, and Barrett are fighting up on the tower. And Avalanche, not Avalanche, but Avalanche is fighting Shinra because they're about to drop plate number 7. Yeah, Jesse dies, Wedge makes it in that moment, and then Biggs, you think he dies, right? And eventually he comes back later, and of course he's in trailers and Rebirth, so like, you would know whether he's alive or not, right? And then, if you've watched those or not. And then Of course, there's the plate collapses. We technically win the fight against Rude and Reno, but to no avail. And then you deal with the aftermath of like the horrors of what the plate crash did and just how terrible Shinra is as a whole. Then you get some weird like side stuff, not side stuff, but like you use Barrett, you know, for a little bit there. And you know, I like Barrett, so I didn't mind that. And then you do some more side questy stuff, you know, and yeah, no, it's you get a bunch of side quests because it's endgame, and again, the side quests aren't the strong suit, but there are at least some that are worth it. Then you start getting to Shinra HQ, and that section is a lot of fun itself. Of course, you gotta traverse through all the trash to get through. There's this beautiful view like near the top of it that I'm gonna show here. It's a wonderful. It's terrible, but like Baird says it later. It's terrible but beautiful all the same. And then you finally reach Shinra HQ, where it's this beautiful building, and I'll put the line up here. You know, the terrible and beautiful, all the same. He's got some of my favorite quotes in any video game. Barrett, when he says stuff, he's great. And then Tifa's, you know, questioning the morality of, I guess, like the humanity of Shinra. You know, like there's regular people working there too, and Barrett, you know, he puts on his quote, a man who works for great evil's not without sin. I forget the verbatim, but yeah, just beautiful stuff. And then we meet Hojo, that son of a bitch, you know, that guy. Easily the most terrifying character in all of FF7, at least Remake. And for me, like, it's the whole series. He's just scary guy doing experiments, and I mean, let's just say he did some really creepy stuff around Aerith, and, you know, I don't blame Aerith's reaction afterwards. That would have creeped anyone out, and she's strong for that. They showed her strength there for sure. And then you go through this huge puzzle that Hojo basically makes us go through, and then you switch back and forth between. Oh yeah, and you meet Red too. You meet Red. It's just he's a bit strange because he's an important character, of course, but you don't use him until the second game because he appears so late. But yeah, you've got Barrett, Cloud, and Red, and then you're using Aerith and Tifa for the other section, and it's a bit long, but a lot of good fights in between there. And then you finally get out of there, and then just peak afterwards with, you know, Cloud on the motorcycle, Aerith and Barrett on the Airbuster upgraded, or whatever it's called. You fight Rufus, he's one of my favorite characters in the game. And then you reach the motorcycle cutscene where Tifa's riding the Matermobile with Aerith and Cloud, and not Aerith and Cloud, Aerith and Barrett and Red on, and Cloud's on looking cool as heck, aura farming on the motorcycle. And then you've got the highway scene, and the music there is just kicking. It's wonderful. I don't think I've had if I said it in my playthrough in the finale, but if games have to be cinematic, let them be that way. You know, it was so cool in the moment. And then you get to the very end where you've got the whole Destiny thing, and Aerith's being all cryptic and stuff, which I now know what is going on, but get to that, you know, in Rebirth once I do my review there, which might not be anytime soon, but whatever. Yeah, I'm just I'm playing this all like I'll get to Rebirth eventually. But then, you know, you get to Destiny's Crossroads, and then you fight like this. I always called them the sperm in game, but the Whispers. I didn't really know or care what the Whispers were when I first played. I'm just like, okay, cool. Even now, it's just like, okay, they're like a plot device to like do some weird stuff. But either way, I wasn't really bothered by them. You know, they was just like, they're gonna do their thing, I'm gonna do my thing, right? And then you fight these just massive like Whisper, Harbinger, Rubrum, all these different names, you know. And then you get to the very end where Sephiroth finally shows up and wants to brawl, or I should say ultimate, because like it's Cloud, and he wanted to go at Cloud, you know. And then you get to the music kicks in when he's floating down, and then the fight starts from there, and it's a very cool fight. It's not the hardest fight in the world, but that was a great fun fight. Why did I say that twice? I don't know, but I don't know, I was just so satisfied by like the end of it all. And in my playthrough, I cried. It was the first time I've cried at a Remake game. And then we see Zack. You see Zack for the first time, and for first-time players that have no idea what's going on, who the hell is Zack? What the heck is this guy with a Buster Sword that looks like Cloud's doing here? And why is he walking past Cloud and Aerith? And why is Cloud also on with Zack? Everything's so confusing, you know. But that's for first-time players, and I mean, I knew to an extent what was going on because I had known about Zack and Crisis Core beforehand, but because, you know, everybody everyone that is like known FF7 on the internet, whenever I'd look at comments, they'd always talk about Zack and Cloud, Zack and Cloud, Zack and Cloud. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, Zack's an important character, but now I see how important Zack is. Of course, after researching all that stuff online. Yeah, he's a very important character, not just for FF7, but for Cloud and Aerith. Very, very, especially Cloud, of course. Very important characters. And then you get to the Yuffie DLC, which, I mean, I thought, like, the main story itself is good. It's quality. There are some parts where it's a little bit slow. You just want the game to move on. And Fort Condor is a good minigame. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed it a lot more in Rebirth. And I just didn't want to, in my playthrough, I just didn't want to do it at the time, but it's a fun minigame. I didn't really do any side quests. I still don't really do any side quests in the Remake Integrate DLC Yuffie part. But yeah, it was a cool little like, like between 5, I think mine was 8 hours or so, something like that. It was kind of long, but, no, it wasn't long, but like, of course, like the length of the story is longer than I thought. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. It's the length of the story is longer than I thought. You meet Sonon, you know, who's a chill, cool character, and then, you know, Yuffie's being her, you know, teenage self. I don't know what's going on throughout the whole story beats, but you basically go through what Yuffie, Sonon, and the rest of them go through while after Barrett, Cloud, and Tifa fought the Airbuster. You know, you see the cutscene where Biggs and all, they come back and they're like, oh, we lost Cloud, but he'll come back. So it was around that time between then and the plate crash. You eventually get to a point in the DLC, I know I'm probably skipping some stuff out, but you get to a point in the DLC where you meet Scarlet, and she's like the weapons manufacturer, like, lady, right? She's the one that handles all that crazy stuff. Advanced weaponry, that's what it's called. And apparently there's some backstory with her and Sonon, and maybe even Yuffie, because apparently there was like a whole Avalanche Wutai Shinra thing going on there. I don't know what the hell is happening there. You know, I'd have to research that, because that's like, and that'll be in the third game. You know, they're building that up, and again, I don't really know what that's all about, but I mean, it's a cool thing they're setting up, because there's still a third game. I'm holding all judgment on the series, right? Like, as far as story, until we get to that. I can judge gameplay, right? I already said side quests you know, the gameplay was wonderful, right? I loved using every single character. I used, even Aerith was pretty enjoyable this time around, but no, the combat's a lot of fun. It's just too bad you couldn't get more of it, but again, Rebirth gives you all of that, so that's why in this game it's like, this game was a huge stepping stone for Rebirth. You know, this game was absolutely necessary for like it reignited Final Fantasy in what it can be, you know, which is why FF7 Remake is so important. And of course, after Remake, when it came out in 2020, we got FF16 in 2023, which kind of follows this in a way, but it was more action-y. Kind of like this remake here. Rebirth's got way more side quests and a bunch of other stuff, but, you know, I had a lot of fun there. The materia system's good. Very simple, but effective, you know, I don't, again, Rebirth expands on it, but in this game, Remake, it's limited, you know, you don't get, like, the really cool ones, but I don't know, I had fun with the materials, you know, they're simple, but it's effective. Also, I just like the colors, you know, I love bright colors, green, blue, red, what was it, green, blue, red, the summonings are red, and pink, and blue, and I already said blue, but yeah, I don't know, I like the materia system, because, I mean, I'm a simple guy, so anything simple will get me attracted, as far as, like, gameplay and all that. Let's see, what else do I got? Music, Jesus, Nobuo Uematsu. Just, I felt like I was playing a movie at times, you know, I mean, it felt, especially with the gameplay, I felt like I was, and that was so much fun, you know, and with him being such a legend, with so many, like, I mean, video game music nowadays is I don't know, time high. It's so so good, you know. I can't believe it, you know, at times. Yeah, so many wonderful soundtracks in this game. And anything else? Let's see. I guess graphically, even though the game's a bit older, it's still impressive to play games with graphics like this, you know. You look at Tifa's, or you look at like Cloud's hair, or like Tifa's skin, or like Barrett's big big like gun on his right arm. Aerith's like eyes, you know, Cloud's eyes. Heck, Tifa's eyes, you know, red. You know, they all got their own cool eye color. Barrett's got brown eyes. I forget what Red's is, but yeah, just graphically the game looks stunning. Even for, I mean, I think for 2020, you know, it was amazing. Now with how fast technology's evolved, graphics are less important. It's more about the performance of games, which I'm happy about. I've always been into either. I mean, they're both cool. You know, if your game, I say this about video, if your game requires good graphics, go ahead and do them. You know, if your game requires good performance, do that. If it's both, even better. You know, it's just whatever your game needs. Now, of course, not every game needs graphics. You know, you can have you know, a $50 to $70 game that blows and a $10 game that rocks, or the other way around. There's so many, like, that's the cool thing about video games, is there's so many different paths you can take, you know, as far as what you like. And recently I was in the sports mood like last year and heading in this year, but now like the RPG, like exploration adventure stuff has kicked in for me now. That's why I'm gonna be getting into more RPGs on my channel, of course. But yeah, it's just I had so much fun with FF7 Remake, and I recommend anyone that's I mean, I'll put it this way: if you like, this is just a taste, right? FF7 Remake's really just a taste of what you're gonna get. But if you like, I would recommend anyone, like, hey, if you want to get into RPGs, especially action ones, you know, play this game. If you're just a guy that looks good, you know, like kind of like the anime style, like, but somewhat realistic. I know there's not that many with that, but that's kind of what Remake is to me. It's got this anime realistic look to it. It's cool to me. But yeah, I think, I know I probably added some extra just rambling there, but that's pretty much it. My name's STCake. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. If y'all enjoyed this, you know, you can obviously, I'll be uploading more RPGs. I'll probably get into Rebirth at some point, but currently, my next playthrough will be Sonic Frontiers, and then after that, Metaphor ReFantazio. So yeah, if you're into those games, just, you know, do what I said earlier, like, comment, subscribe, and notification, all that hoopla. All right, y'all, this is STCake. See y'all later. Bye bye.